So I would love to just hear your story.
A lot of stories.
So
A
many
bit of a
stories.
storyteller, but I can go round and round. So,
Don't we all?
yes, I know. So I'll start. I'm gonna start at the beginning because
Can't wait. Great place to
that
start.
is the very way to start a story from the beginning of time. So I guess I got into psychology because I had a really hard incident happen to me when I was 11. I had a cousin who drowned and died. It was pronounced brain dead, but then we kept him on life support, and we've continued going, which is wonderful. But it was a really really hard point in my life. Because I was 11, he was 18 months, so I was kind of looking after him. It was like that beautiful like maternal cousin kind of vibe. um, and that's when I had a lot of emotions and decided I wanted to be a child psychologist because I went to the library. I read all about emotions, what is going on with my body. So that's what started me on this journey of wanting to help other children just understand what emotions are because I've been there. I understand how messy and complex that is. What got me into the field of autism was another cousin of mine. Was not diagnosed, but very autistic, and recognized ADHD. And we were very close. And so I was like, well, I kind of get it. Like I know what this is like. So I started, when I was trying to get more experience, I started in the field of autism. I stayed there because I was happy. I got it. And it was just such a great field to be in. And that landed into my eventual autism identification. ADHD came first for me and very like ADHD forward. Um, and interestingly, once I was medicated, that's when like more autistic traits started coming out. Um, so there was a lot of overwhelm because I'm like, wow, look, I can focus now. I can definitely do all the things. And that led to a lot of sensory overwhelm and burnout. And then I landed up at autism identification. One of the things that, I'm really passionate about is making sure that we don't have to get there, right? I was at a point where I was just not even functioning in order to get my identification. Like I was throwing out from sensory like input. I was autistic all along, but it was just not recognized. And so, we need to do more in our field to recognize happy autistics. When we're just like stimming with joy. And now I advocate really strongly for the next generation. Seeing my son, if we had this thing, I don't know if you've got it, but where you drop the vitamins into the water, it comes as a little tablet and it fizzes. And to see him go, ah! And just like really happy stims and understanding autistic joy is really nice. So yeah, that's one of the things that I do now. And managed to summarize my whole journey not too badly.
First off, I just want to acknowledge, the unthinkable trauma that you went through and how you transformed that to be able to be making such an impact on the lives of children. That's just I just want to acknowledge all of that. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Well, thank you. So I'm from Singapore, and like how our family operates is you treat like your cousins as like your siblings, right? So who I consider my immediate family, like he's part of that. Um, and at family dinners, just to see him like screaming and crying and not really understanding why, because we had no access to his inner world back then.
Yeah.
So it was years. So I think he only got AAC when he was 16 years old, and the accident was when he was 18 months. So it was a really, really long time of I don't know. I'm just going to try to figure it out. It was very messy and muddy. And, that's kind of how I grew up, us just trying to work it out, trying to be curious about what's going on. Because we weren't sure. So now, I work with a lot of distress behaviors, and I'm like, I get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I could not agree more. I mean, DSM criteria for autism are autistic stress behaviors. And like, what would this look like to actually, for someone to be able to figure out their true self before reaching like such profound states of dysregulation?
Yes, I know. Wouldn't that be lovely?
As a psychologist, do you interface with colleagues from the old way? Like, or have you like steered clear and you just do your own thing?
I always think, I'm really happy to chat if you're open to learning. I'm not open to having an argument. If you want to, argue with me on that and not take on the information that I'm presenting, then that's a waste of my time.
Yes.
Who,
Yes.
yeah, who I am really open to is people who have had a little bit about, what a neuroaffirming approach is, acknowledge that it is challenging, and are ready to ask their questions. And then I'm really happy to answer them and like to support them and try to identify, hang on, where's that niggly bit for you and how can I change that? I'm really happy to do that. And I'm actually doing that in October, which is fun.
So this is the story of your becoming a clinician. What's the story of you becoming an author?
That is a really fun story. That is, ADHD at the helm. I literally just had a client come in and ask me a question, and that question really niggled at me. She said, some of my classmates don't understand, my client, or some of his classmates don't understand him. Can you recommend a book for him to get up to the front of the class and talk to everyone about his diagnosis? And I said, absolutely not. No, I cannot do
It
that.
doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it exists. Resources like those
No,
exist,
but
but
they're not good.
should.
They're not the messages that you would want to be out there to the class.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of them are good, but it's just so my niggly bit is I don't think a disabled kid should have to, first of all, share his diagnosis if he doesn't want to, simply because it is bred out of ignorance of his
Yeah.
classmates.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think, if he wants to share his diagnosis, he can, but it shouldn't be a mandatory thing. It shouldn't be, I have to tell you about my autism in
Right.
order for you to be understanding and inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think inclusion should be at the very heart of our education, and we can
Amen.
support everybody to understand. I think, on a classroom educational level, we should be talking about these differences and how they exist to make our classroom stronger.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
So I would love to know how when you talk about inclusion, what does inclusion mean to you?
Yeah. Really good question. And I saw a quote recently that really, really struck at me. It's, I think, belonging is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. And I don't think that's right. So because, if you think about that party scenario, you can be asked to dance to it and they're like, wow. And I think this is what we're doing, right? We're saying, well, we're asking you along, we're including you, but we're not paying attention to the fact that, maybe it's still too loud. Maybe the party's actually still unwelcoming. Maybe I'm in overload. And so we do these basic things that go, well, I've asked you, I've made these things available, but we don't look at the barriers to accessing them. And
Amen.
so I would argue that inclusion is being part of the planning.
Yes.
right? It's having a say in how the party is conducted in the first place. Um, yeah, so getting to look at, okay, well, where are the safe zones? How do I make sure that I have access to the things that help me? How can I make sure that, the music's not too loud? Or, go through periods where I feel safer. Those kinds of things. I feel like that is true inclusion. When we invite disabled people to have a say at the table and for it to well and truly be heard. Right. I am a
Amen.
I'm a pediatric psych, and I hear a lot of, well, we have a safe space in the back, or we have fidgets in the room. It's like, but that's not it. You can't just say, well, we have fidgets.
Check. It's
Um,
box checking.
exactly. And but if the child accesses the fidgets, they're made fun of, or
Right.
because we don't have that fundamental layer of everyone is safe enough to use these accommodations.
Yeah.
To that attitude change needs to be present first, not just the boxes and the things.
They hadn't changed their view of the world, which is that there's no right way to be a person. And if you like normalize that for 4-year olds, like what a world we would have.
Yeah. One of the things I really love about this book, and I don't know if you know, Yale Clark, she emceed the launch of my Brain Forest. And, she read the book for the first time and she said, this book isn't just for children, Sandy. This book was so healing for me to read. And, what I love about them is they are just a really simple English way of kind of boiling down what we know in research, what we know in community conversations, to something that's easy to read. It's quick, it's colorful and pretty, which I clearly like. And it's just a way of bringing joy, and that's one of the things I really wanted to do with these books is make something cool, and just not, I didn't want to just like Fiverr it and have the book exist, and I said it had to be looking good so people could actually have a resource that they were really proud of. So I realized that when I read this book, it's going to be like mirrored. I don't know if you can change that, but anyway, I'll read it out and you can see the pictures. Cool. Okay, well, I'm glad that works. So this is the Rainbow Brain. What it does is talk about autism and ADHD together in the same brain. Because, so I wrote the Brain Forest first when I was just identified as an ADHDer. And then by the time it launched, autism came into the picture. But I wrote it as an ADHDer. And then when I was identified autistic, I was like, whoa, I don't know how these rules come together. That's really tricky. And I thought, you know what, if I have difficulty knowing, which side like is autism dominant, what things I do that are ADHD dominant, and how I marry those two together, kids would have the same difficulty. So that's what made the Rainbow Brain. So I'll read it. I feel very much like this is story time, everybody.
I love it.
Great. So actually, I want to read the dedication. It says, to all the amazing ADHDers who have told me that they have rainbow brains, this book was named by you and is for you. Thank you for always guiding me. So what a lot of children did after they read the Brain Forest is they identified with so many things on different pages that they finished it and said, I have a rainbow brain. And I go, well, this is clearly the next best, it had to follow. This is your rainbow brain. So while the Brain Forest is just talking about neurodiversity in general, the rainbow brain is especially for neurodivergent people to see their brain represented. Okay, so I'll actually start reading.
Okay.
I have a lot of side quests in my brain. Okay. So deep down in the rainforest, I found a tree that looks like mine. It wasn't like any brain I'd seen. It had colours that swirled to combine. So we see that actually so it's not just one solid colour, it's got a few colours going on. This tree was a sight to behold, with beautiful shades of blue. But all mixed in with that, there was some fiery red too. Fiery red. This swirling, whirling tree is called autism and ADHD. Those are names for what it's like to have a brain like me. And then you see over here, there's ADHD and autism together. Blue and red, peanut butter and jam, butter and bread, mint and lamb. Yes, will they work together? Amazingly, they just do. Can we know them as one rather than as two? Peanut butter and jam was like my favorite sandwich combination. Because purple, we could be wonderful together and come to know this dance of how two seemingly opposing ideas can work perfectly given the chance. So now we're going to some rules. So autism. I like to know what's coming up. I feel great when things are the same. I plan all the smallest details to keep stress out of my brain. And then we have ADHD. I like life to be interesting and new. I feel bored when things are the same. Details can matter or get tossed aside. Doing what I feel is my aim. How do we marry those two together? And in the rainbow brain, I can deal with change unless a surprise you spring. Given choice, control, and time, I'm happy to do new things. And this is the ADHD network brain represented. It's lovely. So ADHD, my brain likes to go fast and do lots at the same time. A little of this, a bit of that. How I get things done is mine to define. So talking about affirming executive function skills. Right, we have a different way of getting it done. And then we have autism, and that's represented kind of more sequentially. It's like a cog. It says, my brain needs to go slow. It takes its time to think. There are so many facts gathered to collect, process, and sync. So it's really talking about that detail orientation. Which I love this little magnifying glass. So ADHD and autism. I learn best with preferred topics. My interest determines my speed. When it's boring, though, I multitask to meet my needs. So we see, child jumping on a trampoline, a spin, a fidget. It's just kind of nice to have like an ADHD culture represented in books. Okay. And so this is the autism page. It says, my brain does not filter, taking in most sights and sounds. Being in nature is lovely, but I need help in busy surrounds. So we say, turn down the lights. We can use noise cancelling headphones, or we can, advocate and ask to meet in a quiet space. So, come with me. I can't go there, but you can come here. And ADHD, my brain thinks everything is important. I pay attention to it all. It's easy to forget what is said. I use strategies to help my recall. One instruction at a time. Sit closer to the teacher, or I make it visual. I draw and write it down. And this is one of my favorites. This is talking about our emotions. It's just kind of, all the high highs and you've got the yes and the smileys, but also just the hang on, we need to slow down. We need to just So this is the best way that I can represent our emotions. We engage the world with the world so deeply. Our highs are high, our lows are low. However I am feeling, I allow myself. I've learnt to go with the flow. So really thinking about our compassion for ourselves and accepting where we are. Now these colours are swirling together, that are swirling work together. Don't you see? Want to know another little secret? There may be more colours in your tree. And then we have this the real rainbow brain. Let's talk about ARFID and intellectual disability and anxiety and PDA and Tourette's and OCD and giftedness and all our learning challenges. So dyslexia, calculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia. Talking about it's not just autism and ADHD. It's very rarely occurring by itself. But let's learn to look at ourselves more holistically. There are so many different trees, and a few of them are rainbow. So yeah, we kind of come back to that brain first concept of, this is dyslexia, there's neurotypical brains, there's people who are just autistic or ADHD, and then we've got our rainbow brain. We've kind of added those few more colors in there now. I'm learning more about my brain type, and with the right supports, I grow. So here are some people that help nurture rainbow brains. We're kind of talking about why we see people. Right? We have our parents, we have an occupational therapist, we have counselors, animal therapists, we have our teachers, psychologists, that's me. We have support workers who might come, speech pathologists, art therapists. So really trying to represent, some of the people who we might see. Talking about here are some things that can hurt rainbow brains. Loud noises, bright lights, too many things to concentrate on, having to sit still for a long time. I'm fidgety, I need to move. Sudden changes, rejection, feeling misunderstood, and ignoring our body signs. That's being made to, really. And some things that help rainbow brains. So we have like self-advocacy. I need to play by myself today. It's okay, sure, I'll see you later. Right. And just having that connection, because this is something that I used to do at school. I never played with my friends all the time, but they always got that we were still friends. I like to do my own thing a lot of the time. All right, so here are some things that help rainbow brains. Resting when we need. My son came up to me the other day and said, well, I'm feeling very tired because it's the first week of school and I need to cancel my after school activities. I'm like, great. I love that you're telling me this and articulating it. Sensory accommodations. So using what we need. We have safe and same foods. And I had to draw chicken nuggets in this. Like, this is ADHD culture. I love nuggets. And it actually says, I love nuggets. I do love nuggets. Asking for what we need, learning about ourselves, time in nature, time with our interests, and meeting others with rainbow brains. This is all my recommendations usually in reports. And I really wanted to give a nod to, we can celebrate rainbow brains, but at the same time talk about how it is a disability and it is really hard. So I've depicted it this way. Because having a rainbow brain is special, but the world can be hard to navigate. See, it wasn't built for rainbow brains. There are still changes we need to create. It's tiring moving through this world, and we need more time to rest. Making space for self-care and the things we love help us feel at our best. So just chilling out. Because now we know, oh, so happy. Now we know what works for the rainbow brain design. Go build a wonderful life and shine, shine, shine. And that's it. And then I've just kind of got some other terms in further reading if anyone wants to learn more about it. That's the rainbow brain.
I don't even know what to say. Like, I just feel so incredibly honored to have you read this to me. Like, it's one thing for me to have like read it on my own, but to have you read it to me, like this is like I think I like this is anyway, like but people want to reduce down to like, well, this is my autism and this is my ADHD. Anyway, like this was just such a beautiful, like even like the metaphor of color, like of course red and blue can become purple. Of course they can. Like and
Yeah.
and I appreciate like all of the little details that went in to just even what you chose to show as images for these concepts. Just I am blown away. This is just beyond anything. This is incredible.
Thank you. That's so nice. I'm so happy. Yeah.
Amazing.
No, that's very kind of you. You know, I like whenever I create in this little room, it's just looking at how we represent our culture. And it's so, so nice when that kind of lands with someone else too. All I think about is, you know, first of all, me, like what do I love? I love nuggets. I love fidgets. And you know, and then kind of putting that in place. So the end product is something that I'm really, really happy with. And when someone else sees that as well, they're like, oh, I love nuggets too. I was like, you have no idea how much I love
I
nuggets.
love nuggets so much. Yes.
I know.
Yes. That's
And you know, I was going through a really tough period last year with sensory input, particularly around food. And you know, I would have food cooked for me, so I couldn't even cook, but I would have food cooked for me, and it'd be, you know, a balanced meal. And I'd look at it, and I just couldn't eat it. And my husband would look at me, and now he's learned without judgment to just go, do you need nuggets? And just so you can eat, you know. And I'm like, thank you so much, because I can't handle this right now. I know that, you know, this food provides nutrients and nutrition, but right now I need to eat what I can eat. And it's not that plate.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband hasn't figured that out yet. But
Yeah.
yes, that resonates with me a lot.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the nuggets are bringing us together.
Amazing. Yeah. I had so my follow-up to nuggets is French fries. And so that was my dinner tonight. So it was
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Can I tell you a little bit about my favorite chip? I have to
yeah,
tell
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So there is this a chain in Australia that exists. I don't know if it's outside, but it is. They've thought about their chip design so much, and it's not square. It is diamond shaped, so that the inside is fluffy and the outside's like crisp. I was like, I love it. I said, you have like thought scientifically about how to create the perfect chip, and the seasoning is so good.
It's
Oh, it's like
amazing.
my
Well,
favorite
that's
too.
so interesting. You're making me think about like the physics of chip design, which I'd never thought about. Like that's why waffle fries are so much easier to cook.
Mm,
Whoa. These are deep thoughts. This is amazing.
the
Amazing.
science of our food.
I'm curious how old is your child before I ask I was gonna ask you like what does your child think of your books?
Oh, 6.
Our children the same age?
Yeah. So he actually helped me create the brain first when he was 4, which is amazing because, you know, it was created in lockdown and I had him by my feet. I go, well, I really need to try and get this out. Why don't you draw this idea? And he drew the first sketches and I just sent those sketches to my graphic designer as it turned this into something, and it's nice to see the translation. Um, yeah, no, he's very proud of me.
Shortly after I learned that I was autistic, I too, ADHD came first, and then, and anyway, so, drove myself into burnout, and was also like, I had a job that was really ruining my life, and that further drove me into burnout, and, all of that. Anyway, so got really bad, I'm more of I'm a meltdown dysregulated person, not a shutdown. And I reached a point of dysregulation I had never reached before. And I lost the ability to speak. I didn't leave my chair, and like didn't leave my room. Anyway, it was like a big anyway. And then finally, thank God for my rainbow brain, that I conceived of my nonprofit organization. And that was what pulled me out. And it was a big scramble to, and then my then 4-year-old was also sitting at my feet, and I gave her the outline of a brain, like to like color, like just color while I'm like researching electronic medical records and stuff. And this is what she made.
Oh, that's lovely. It's very pretty.
Thank you. So she colored a rainbow brain, which we drew a house around, and we made it our logo. But I so appreciate, I really appreciate the opportunity to hear your story and your journey. And thank you for sharing your beautiful book, not just with me, but with the world. It's so incredible. I mean, when you think about the opportunity, I mean, like when you said that adults have shared with you that reading The Brain Forest was healing. I mean, that this even I spend my whole day thinking about the marriage of autism and ADHD. Even for me, I have new insights that I about my own brain that I didn't have until you said it. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
That's all right. That's so lovely. I love that. It's so amazing to hear like how this book kind of travels and connects people. So in Melbourne, I wrote the book in during lockdown. I mean, there was we couldn't see people, and I was just kind of needing a creative space and outlet. And I lost my train of thought. This is fun.
I get it. I
Um,
do.
oh yes. So what we had in Melbourne, we had a really, really long lockdown. It was 288, 282 maybe days in lockdown. And there was a rule which you couldn't travel outside of your 5 kilometer radius. So you just had to stay within your neighborhood, and that would enable you to get your essentials and things like that. So when I first sat down and predicted where it might go, I was like, maybe I'll go like across the bridge type thing, in Melbourne. I was like, if it reached to the other side of Melbourne, that would be great. That would be, my happy place where people all around Melbourne have had it. And now we're talking to people all around the world, which is amazing.